All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this second installment of the four foundational steps to financial freedom. Again, this is the Financial Freedom Academy channel, and we're super excited to be bringing this sort of foundational training on just how to think about and how to look at what financial freedom is all about. And again, one thing that we want to make sure that we're really clear on is that none of this is financial advice. So please do your own research. Please speak to your own financial advisors. We are not your financial advisors. We're not financial advisors to anyone. We are just students of this idea of what it looks like to move in the direction of being financially healthy and moving towards financial freedom. So, with that being said, again, we are in this process of introducing the four foundational steps to financial freedom. And in the previous video, if you haven't watched it, please pause this video, go back and watch the other one. It was all around determining your why as well as your goals. So looking at both financial and lifestyle goals that you have for your financial freedom journey. Okay, so what this video is all about is around fixing the leak. Okay, and this is an idea where we've established sort of our North Star, what our objective is, the vision, sort of the core motivation behind where we're going. But before we begin that journey, we actually need to kind of take a look at our current reality and what's currently happening and make sure that we don't have anything that's going to prevent us from actually being able to make the journey. Okay. There's a really good quote by someone named Benjamin Franklin. If you've never heard of him, he's got a lot of good quotes and cool stuff he's done in the history in the past. But he's got a quote that says, "Beware of small expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship." And that's just one of those things where it's important to remember the small things. Okay, it's important to look at being responsible with the small things and learning how to manage the small things, because once you understand that, then you can start to increase the number of things and the size of things that you can manage in a responsible way, especially around money. Okay, because if you're not doing great with where you're at right now, then an influx of money isn't necessarily going to fix any of your problems. It actually will probably just exacerbate or make your current problems worse. It's going to highlight it, right? I like to think of it like, an old bridge, right? An old bridge just sitting there may not look that bad, but the moment you start rolling a really heavy vehicle across it, it's going to reveal all the cracks and everything. And so we want to fix the bridge before we begin to take on more and more financial, just health and financial gain. Okay, so that being said, let's start talking through how to analyze your current reality, specifically around your expenses. So, Rich, if you want to walk us through kind of maybe kicking off with this idea of categorizing your spending, talk us through kind of that perspective.
Yeah, so you really got to start out by understanding and knowing how you are currently spending your money. Now, as it says there are apps that can help with this, and that can be really helpful. So whether you go through your online banking provider or you just go through your statements and put some sort of a category next to it, you can upload it. If you can get some sort of a electronic download, you can put it in a spreadsheet. So it doesn't really matter whether you're doing this, in an electronic system or even just on a bit of paper. What you're trying to do is to get a handle on your current spending, to get an idea of where your money is going on average. So maybe you want to take an average of the last 3 months. Maybe you want to do the last 6 months. That's up to you. But you're trying to see things like, hey, okay, how much am I spending on rent or mortgage type of payments, and what does that look like? But also be thinking about how much am I spending on accommodation in general. So if you own your own home and you're spending money on that, is that a subcategory that you want to put that under to understand that? Think about money that you're spending on food, on energy bills, on your car. Think through all of these things. Then you're also going to begin to see, like, hey, how much am I spending on luxuries, treats? Now depending on what your life looks like, that'll be different sorts of things. But maybe how much am I eating out? How much hobbies am I putting in there? All of those things. At the moment, try not to pass any judgment on those things. Just understand them so that you know where your money is going to, And then you can start to make some better choices with that.
Yeah, that's really good. I think um, the point about not passing judgment is especially important at this stage because we're not trying to make yourself look good on paper or on the app or whatever you're using. You simply just want to observe what is the objective data of the past of what's happened, right? And you may, oh well, yeah, last month I had a few friends' birthdays and a wedding I had to go to, so that's why it doesn't matter. Just write it down and just take a look at it. We're just trying to get a sense of, what is the current reality, where are things at, okay, and then that can then give us everything that we need, or the majority of what we need, to start planning for and looking at into the future. And then the second one you have here, I think, is really important, is looking at debt. And debt is one of those things where, I would say the average person is carrying around some type of debt, whether it's a car payment, whether it's student loans, whether it's possibly credit card, consumer debt, that sort of thing. But talk to us about this idea of how to handle and how to go about addressing the debt currently to help us begin to fix the leak there.
Yeah. So one of the categories that you're going to identify in the previous step is interest payments. Unless you've got absolutely zero debt, you'll have a category there of interest payments. And I wonder, as you look at that, are you surprised by how much it is? Because remember, that is an amount of money that once you are debt free is now available for you to do other things. And so as you look at that, you've got to look and see where it is. And not all debt is created equal. Okay, so there is a hierarchy of debt in terms of the interest that you are paying. And so you've got to look, and within that, and this is one of those categories that you're going to need to pay a lot of attention to, you're going to need to break it down and say, where is it going and what interest am I paying on these different things? Now, you may need to get financial advice on this. You may need to go to a debt counselor. We aren't any of those things. But in general terms, you want to look at paying off the highest interest rate stuff first. So if you have got stuff on credit cards, if you've got stuff on payday loans, those kinds of things, the chances are those have got higher interest rates. That's a bigger hole in your bucket. So look to see how you can pay that off. Now, if you're in a position where you're thinking about restructuring debt, combining loans, you are definitely going to need to speak to an advisor about that and get some help with that. But overall, you need to be putting that as a priority to say, how can I reduce my debt as quickly as I can? Perhaps with the exception of a mortgage, if you have a mortgage on a house. But nearly every other bit of debt, you need to be saying, how can I get rid of this sensibly and quickly? So that I am then this one of these leaks on the bucket, I've put a patch over it. Interest payments aren't going out anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And there's different schools of thought around how to prioritize the debt that you're paying off, but definitely the ones that have the really, really big interest rates that are just crushing you. At a minimum, look at restructuring that so that you can at least because that can wipe you out pretty quickly. I know that other advisors like Dave Ramsey, for example, he talks about the debt snowball. So starting with the smallest amount you owe versus the interest rate, starting with it, knocking it out first, simply for the feeling of momentum, right? If I've got 7 different debts, I'd take the smallest one and get it paid off first because, wow, I went from 7 to 6 now, right? But pay attention to your interest rates because it might be necessary to address the higher interest rates there too. Different schools of thought, but the bigger point, be intentional. All right, we've got to get a handle on the debt. Did you have something?
Yeah, a couple of things on this, and just adding on to everything that said, totally agree. In that categorize part, there's that old saying that a problem well defined is a problem half solved, and that to me is categorization. If you just have this lump of money that's coming out of your bank account, every month, and you don't know where it's going, you can't actually take action on that. So taking time to get that system of categorization in place is so incredibly helpful because it's going to give you the power every month to make better decisions. Better decisions 1 month at a time leads to a big difference over time. And then to your point on the paying off debt, again, highest interest rate, great if you can knock that out soon. But to Justin's point, the debt snowball, if you're just getting started and you need some small wins to get that momentum, that's a great place, to start. So again, seek financial advice and counsel on that, but those are a couple of different approaches. And when you're looking for areas where you could cut back, something that my wife and I have done is simply to look at our expenses and say, what provides us the most joy or utility, and what provides us the least joy and utility. Look for those areas to cut first, right? In your time each month. And then lastly, the don't take all the fun out of it. When you set goals, give yourself a chance to celebrate and enjoy that, because that's going to make you more motivated to do better the next month, right? So if it's a smaller goal, go out to a nice dinner, right? Or if it's a bigger goal, maybe take a trip or go for a staycation, right? Some things that you can do to mark the milestones, show progress, and give yourself momentum.
Yeah, I like that. And one of the questions that I like to use where I'm looking for places to cut back is, to ask myself, hey, is this expense worth delaying my goals and my objectives and getting to financial
Mhm.
freedom? And it's
Absolutely.
okay if the answer is yes. To your point, the kind of the don't take all the fun out of it, right? It's like, we maybe you hit a milestone that you've been, trying to get to on your way to your bigger goal, and hey, is this steak dinner, with my significant other, worth delaying, an extra whatever towards my goal? The answer is okay. It might be yes, because you're kind of in the process. So you just have to be mindful not to let that overtake you, and to get carried away. Like, hey,
Yeah.
3 times a week we're going to be celebrating because we're being so good. So 3 times a week, okay, you have to kind of weigh it with, yeah, reality, that sort of thing. So any thoughts from you on that, Rich?
Yeah, I just think you've got to live, and you've got to make your choices, and they may change over time. So you may start out on a certain journey. Maybe you're like, hey, we're going to cut back on this, we're going to cut back on this, and you start out, and then you just discover life's no fun along the way. So you bring stuff back in, or maybe you think like, hey, yeah, we will go for this, and this, and then you keep on reevaluating, and you're like, hey, do we really need this? Was this as important as we think? So you're never going to get it right first time, I don't think. So um, be willing to adjust, but keep on bringing it back to your why. Like everything else has to compete with your why,
Yeah.
and if it does, then great, but don't give yourself too easy a pass by just forgetting about that why.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so one of the things that is kind of goes along with fixing the leak is building in margin. So again, don't just aim to break even, and you need to be planned for the unexpected. Okay, we also have, you need to plan for the expected. Clearly, that's important, but especially the unexpected. There's going to be situations that come up that are going to, can create a lot of damage, financially, but even emotionally, right? If you're, um, picking up momentum and you're moving in this direction, and then all of a sudden, you get a flat tire, or, something happens with your engine in your vehicle, or there's an unexpected medical expense, things like that. Those things, just assume they're going to happen. It's so funny. People, I've heard the joke that, it seems like people are surprised that Christmas comes in December every year. It's, oh my gosh, planning for all these expenses around Christmas. It's like, it's been the same day, I think, for like ever. So like, it's coming, right? Do you plan for that? That is expected, actually. You know what I mean? Since that's not an unexpected thing, don't act like it. But also think about what are the things that, are expected as well. And then also set aside money for investing or, seed funds. So think about, as you're looking at fixing the leak, what we're doing is we are beginning to play defense with our money to make sure that we are being very careful that as we are earning money, because you're spending your time, your energy, and your effort working to earn money. And what I think about, and the way that I operate, is that time is the most valuable thing I have access to. And so any money that I earn with my time, I look at that money like the most valuable money, because I had to trade my most valuable resource to get it, right? Now, when we get into like passive income or reinvesting, things like that, that's different types of income, different types of money, because I didn't use my time to get it directly. So make sure that as you're playing defense, that you're also beginning to think about, how can I start playing offense? And that's where you begin to set aside money for investing, that sort of thing. So let's look at this final kind of step. which is your action plan. So when it comes to fixing the leak, okay, what are the 5 most important actions that you need to take right now? And list them. And then I want you to order them from the most important and most urgent to the least. Now, they're probably all important and they might all feel urgent, but don't try to multitask. Put them in an order and go, okay, the very first thing I need to do is I need to go get a handle on this debt. And it might be, I don't even know what debt I have. So start there, right? Or it might be, hey, I need to really look at my budget over the past 3 months to really understand and categorize. So whatever it is for you, make that list, order them from most important, and then get started. Put a date next to each one and actually begin to go and do it. Okay. So that's fixing the leak. Any final thoughts from you two before we sign off here? All good. All right. Great. We'll see you in the next installment.